Of course, all eyes will be on the State of the Union on this particular evening. I think it'll be around 8 or 9 o'clock p.m., if I'm remembering correctly, and all along those lines. And of course, people will be paying attention to what Biden is saying and what his plans are for the next 4 years, should he get reelected, and all along that kind of way. And of course, he'll be talking about some of the accomplishments of the last year and all in that way. So we'll see how folks react to it. And of course, it does look like we're heading to that election that everybody was expecting, but a lot of people were saying they didn't want, including some of the people that had been supporting Nikki Haley and all in that kind of space. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. And it looks like Donald Trump might have some new problems as well. So I'm going to play this short video. And then after the short video, we'll bring in Sasha Starr and Rick Rosner, because apparently one of Donald Trump's enemies has decided that she is going to create her own PAC, and all along those lines. So I'm going to play this little bit of a video, because Liz Cheney has said, wait a minute, y'all have chosen, I don't like the choice, and I've got something to say about this. So we're going to play this, see what folks' reactions are to it as we have a discussion around world politics. But let's check this out.
Former President Trump swept all but one of the Super Tuesday states. Former Congresswoman Liz Cheney is launching a new political action committee. She unveiled her new PAC, The Great Task, on social media with a scathing post, skewering her party for once again Donald Trump as its nominee. She wrote this: the GOP has chosen. They will nominate a man who attempted to overturn an election and seize power. We have 8 months to save our republic and ensure that Donald Trump is never anywhere near the Oval Office again. The Great Task is a multi-candidate PAC sponsored by the former Congresswoman. The PAC is not yet affiliated with any presidential candidate. Joining us now, former Republican Congressman David Jolly of Florida. David, thanks so much for being with us this morning. So let's start there. Liz Cheney is representative of a significant group of Republicans, voters who simply will not back Donald Trump. We saw a lot of them break for Nikki Haley in recent weeks. Do you think they'll hold firm and either support President Biden, support a third-party candidate, stay home, or will they inevitably come back to the GOP and Trump?
Well, I think that's the decisive question in November, Jonathan. Will they stay, will their opposition to Donald Trump lead them to vote for Joe Biden, or will they stay home or consider a third party? And this is where I think the leadership of Nikki Haley and Liz Cheney and others becomes so critically important. I'm not sure that Nikki Haley herself really led a movement as much as she did create a vessel for these voters. And so if you are one of these voters who was most concerned with Donald Trump's fitness, his fitness for office was why you opposed him, the fact that he won on Super Tuesday doesn't make him more fit for office. And so where is the intellectual honesty? Where is the call to action? It kind of requires you to actually then say, well, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. And I would suggest, with all due respect to Liz Cheney, who is a true patriot and has demonstrated that in the last year, the line that is missing from her statement is, therefore, I will be voting for Joe Biden, and I'm asking you to as well. Jonathan, this is not 2016 where there's a lot of unknowns. It's not 2020. It's 2024. We know the threat that Donald Trump is. The voters who voted for Haley said he is a threat. He is unfit. So the only answer then is to go all the way and suggest, so therefore I will vote for Joe Biden. And I think we should hear that from Nikki Haley and Liz Cheney. I'm not sure we will from Haley. Maybe we will from Liz Cheney before November.
David, give us your brief assessment simply of what these primaries showed us about Trump's strengths and, more importantly, his weaknesses.
Yeah, Jonathan, I think Donald Trump is in a lot of trouble. I mean, we look at the polls and you see notionally he's up a few points over Joe Biden. We looked at the electoral math, but the truth is this coalition of soft Republicans and independents who have chosen Democrats over Republicans. They were there in 18, 20, 22. They're still there in 24. And in 24, we actually have the motivating issues like Dobbs and reproductive freedom that we didn't have in 18 and 20. I think Donald Trump is in trouble. Ignore the polls for a minute. I would much rather be in Joe Biden's position today than in Donald Trump's.
So Joe Biden has a big position tonight, the State of the Union address, a national audience, probably his biggest audience of the year. The only one coming close might be his convention speech, or if he and Trump do have a debate or two. What does he need to do tonight in terms of policy, but also proving vitality when he speaks to the voters?
Yeah, look, I think Joe Biden is in a very strong position. I think the one thing that has to happen before November by Biden and Democrats is to take control of the issues of the economy and the border. And you're seeing him do that. But right now, I think Republicans have gotten away with framing the issue. The economy somehow is soft. That's not true. The border problem is Joe Biden's problem. That's not true either. Joe Biden has led a solution that Republicans have stopped. So in some ways, I think.
Okay. We are frozen. All right, let's go to us saying stuff.
There last year because the issue Republicans have got up between now and November is to continue to turn the tables on Republicans.
A strong showing of last year's State of the Union. David, lastly, do you think that Biden himself tonight, would you advise him, should he go after Trump directly by name, calling him out on what he's done before and plans to do in a possible second term?
Look, I think I'm in the minority. I don't think he should mention Donald Trump, and I don't think he needs to. A strong defense of democracy, a strong defense of kitchen table issues and growing an economy for all people draws a natural contrast with Donald Trump. I've been with the House 25, 30 years. I'm a bit of an institutionalist. Tonight is not a campaign speech. Let the contrast of the issues work for itself. It will be clear that you're also isolating Donald Trump and his vision for the country versus yours.
Yeah, President Biden will hit the campaign in Pennsylvania and Georgia next couple of days. More travel planned for next week. Certainly a high-stakes speech tonight, one that his voters believe can help change some of the narrative around Biden. And as you say, David, really draw contrasts with MAGA Republicans. Former Republican Congressman David Jolly of Florida, thank you for joining us this morning. We'll be reading your latest piece for MSNBC.com. Please come back soon.
Both Sasha and Rick, your take on that. I was fascinated when I heard that Liz Cheney was doing that, starting this PAC and all along those lines. So we'll see if that PAC draws some of the Nikki Haley camp into voting for Biden. I was actually having a conversation.
The race is on to replace Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and what was a three-man campaign.
Get rid of these guys. Get rid of these guys. All right, so just get anyway. It kept rolling. Sasha, when you're trying to decide whether or not what to do about a stock, you look at all the forces on the stock that might drive the price up or drive it down or drive it sideways. And I think you got to look at the election that way too, where this is the same election as 4 years ago, same two guys. The last time Biden won narrowly, even though we got 7 million more popular vote than Trump did. And so, I look at all the forces, and one of the forces is, are you going to have attractive third-party candidates? And how many votes are they going to take away from each of Trump and Biden? And, you're starting with 81 million votes for Biden. How many will he lose for being old? How many will he lose for inflation? How many will he gain because Republicans are nuts on abortion? It's the same with how many votes will Trump lose for being an asshole, for having all these indictments. And then, you try to figure out where you're going to end up and how worried we should be.
First of all, the analogy of what's happening now with Trump in the United States is only 1930s in Germany, when, believe it or not, Hitler, he was lawfully elected to the office. He became a chancellor of Germany, not by the coup or anything. That was Trump trying to do in 2021, and it failed again because of his. He was so close to it. I don't know. It's his stupidity not be able to concentrate on details. He can't plan anything. He never ran any business in his life. He's just stupid idiot. That's all what really he is. He couldn't even do the proper coup, and he was so close to it. All this engineering of phony slate of electors and so on. They've done everything by the book, and they had to just do it and just couldn't. Now, his public persona was which he built during the 2015, 2016, and how he became president. So there was a persona that he is ultra rich beyond any imagination. He's worth several $billion, probably much more than that. And tomorrow there will be a complete destruction of that myth, because tomorrow is the last day that he has to come up with $100 million for what's her name?
E. Jean Carroll.
Exactly. And she already indicated that she's not going to be satisfied with anything less than a full amount. And if not, then she can start grabbing his pieces of real estate and just sell it for next to nothing, or whatever she can fetch to satisfy her judgment. And he's already put his own $5 million when was the first ruling against him. So he's out of 5 million, but for him maybe that's not a big deal. 100 million is a little bit bigger deal, but even the bigger deal will come in about a week and a half, where he has to put up around $500 million. Now, he's okay. $100 million is a question. I don't think that he has. And by the way, I was listening to YouTube by Johnson, or David Johnson, who was on this network many times. He said
Johnson, right,
doesn't believe that he has $100 million. Never mind $500 million. He doesn't have the money. So he has to approach his, probably Saudi Arabia could provide something. Kushner is running one of his funds, investments, or so on. But how Americans are going to be voting for a president who got money for his crimes to pay from Saudi Arabia? Go and figure out that. So Germans could elect Hitler, then why Americans cannot elect this asshole? What's his name? Donald
It'd be
Trump.
interesting to see. Really quick, I did see your question and I did see your hand up, but I did see, and I know that you come from that world as well. One of the best lines that I heard from a comedian, I believe it was Joy Bayer, that's with The View, and she said that the last time that Mr. Trump or former President Trump had done a push-up was when he was on top of Stormy Daniels. So that was his that was her actual line. It makes a lot of sense.
Well, she's wrong. He's too lazy to have sex on top. I think he lies down and makes the woman do all the. I don't think he can even have sex anymore. I doubt he's been able to get an erection since, like, I don't know, 2017.
More or less.
Like we know all this horrifying stuff about Trump, but his voters don't know about it because they watch Fox, they watch right-wing media that shields them from a bunch of the horrible facts about Trump.
Rick, I want to tell you something very interesting. While I was in Aruba, in next hotel right after ours, we had our friends from Toronto, which we never talked for the last, I don't know, probably 20, 25 years. Like life, you're going this way and they're going that way. But we had normal relationship, and we were very happy to meet and reconnect, and we spent a lot of time together. Until we started to discuss politics. And what's funny is they are, she doesn't care, but he is more or less in a Trump mode, although he's not very active in that. But of course, yeah, Trump. Yeah, he doesn't know about anything about the resurrection on January 6th. He doesn't know about these trials that Trump is indicted and so on. He doesn't know about this phony slate of electors. He doesn't know anything. Why? Because he listens only to Fox News and all this.
So what did he say when you told him about this stuff?
He was he couldn't understand what I'm talking about. He says, Sasha, is that real? I mean, where did you get that? I said, everywhere. It's everywhere except Fox News that you're listening to.
Yeah, well, it's not just that issue, Sasha, because I know one of the things, and we were talking on one of our other shows after the show had run, who was actually another one of our investment shows, and all along those lines. But part of the conversation was this notion of how things are misframed and all along those lines, because a lot of times, even in the whole discussion around the stimulus packages and the money that people were given, those PPI loans and all of that kind of stuff that was given to different governments, folks forget that the CARE Act was actually implemented by Trump. It wasn't implemented by Biden. It might have been carried out somewhat by Biden, but the actual initial stimulus money was under the Trump administration, was actually signed by Donald Trump. But a lot of times people don't pay attention to that. I'm sure Rick has even observed that as well, that a lot of times people forgive him for that, even though they complain about it. So is that something even you've noticed with your friends like Lance, who is ultra conservative, that they often want to lay it at the foot of the Biden administration?
Lance is an informed lunatic because Lance is an artist. He's a painter and a sculptor. And he spends all day in his studio painting and sculpting 10 hours a day and listening to conservative podcasts. So he's a rarity among conservatives in that he knows everything that conservatives are telling him. And he believes all of it. But the average conservative, the average Trump voter just doesn't know that much stuff. You know, like Fox News, not that many people watch Fox News or MSNBC or CNBC, only like 3 million people every night. And most people just don't pay much attention. And when they do happen to tune in, to Fox for half an hour here or whatever, then they'll get fed bullshit. But mostly it's not believing the bullshit. It's mostly just not knowing the horrible stuff.
Yeah, and that's what the thing I was mentioning, even with the loans and everything, that people don't know who's responsible for what. And
a lot of this stuff is super complicated, like Trump Russia. Lance and I have been arguing about this for 7 years. And Lance says, oh, you say that Trump is a Russian spy. And I'm like, no, I've never said that. I've said that Trump is a dupe who's easily influenced by Putin, he likes Putin. He respects Putin. He wants to do business in Russia. And Putin, a smart guy, took advantage of Trump, a dumb guy, a greedy guy. And then the Steele report, which was never supposed to be believed 100%. It's got all these stories that might be true, probably aren't true, about like Trump hired Russian prostitutes to pee on a bed that Obama slept in
golden shower, so-called.
Oh, yeah, golden showers. He hired prostitutes to pee on the bed that Obama slept in. That's the most scurrilous rumor in the Steele report. Most people don't believe it. But anyway, it's all complicated, and most people don't have the attention span to sort it out. The same thing with Burisma and Ukraine and prosecutor Shokin and Hunter Biden. There's a story. The truth is there to be found out, but it's somewhat complicated. And right-wing media take advantage of people's unwillingness to wade through complicated stuff and just throw a lot of bullshit in the way.
I think this all will be rectified tonight with the Biden State of the Union address. I think we will start seeing things and falling in its rightful places. I think the Americans will be, hopefully a lot of people will listen to it. They will start to realize that they have a choice between a normal politician who spent close to 50 years in public offices, whose life is well known, almost every fact, and a crook and a criminal on the other side, whose record is pathetic. He lost everything what there was to lose in his life. He lost all his father's inheritance money. It's about $400 million. He lost all this, even casinos, bankruptcies, and so on. Think about bankruptcies of 6 casinos. Casino is a cash positive business. It's not like you run, let's see, even let's say a grocery store. You're buying stuff and then people pay you. In restaurants, people pay you right away. Now, some other businesses, you sell stuff, but the clients are paying you only a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later. And some people will stop paying you. You can go bankrupt simply because you have bills to pay and no revenue, or almost no revenue. Now, casino is a cash positive business because people, when they're putting money in the slot machine, they do it right away. It's not that you have to chase somebody, oh, you owe me $7, please pay. No, they're paying it even before. Before it starts rotating this wheel, money is already there. Then they have restaurants. People can order drinks and food. They have to pay it right away. Okay, people who spend night there, so they have to pay for lodging. So for the hotel service, have to pay right away. So it's a cash positive business. It cannot go bankrupt unless you have thugs who will go at night to the tables in a casino and remove all the cash from the table. And then in the morning, you're coming, oh, there's no cash. What's happened? Oh, my God, what a misfortune. So somebody misappropriated that cash. And it happened much more than once. It has to happen several times in all 6 casinos or so on. So this is all crooked proposition that the 6 casinos, all of a sudden, I never heard any casino in the United States went out of business except 6 casinos.
You can all the other casinos, like year over year profits, 20%, 30%, just like Trump, minus 90%. Like, and you look at the basic bad business decisions he made. I think he built 2 casinos in Atlantic City, so he's competing with himself. And then you look at what happens to Atlantic. He needed to hire somebody to do business analysis. Atlantic City was dying. The people who went to Atlantic City were people who couldn't afford a $300 round trip ticket to Vegas. Instead, they took a bus from New Jersey down to Atlantic
New York. A lot of people were going.
Right, they take the bus though. These are not these are not high rollers, so they're not going to bring a lot of money in. But Trump builds a casino, the Taj Mahal, for high rollers in a city that no longer attracts too many high rollers. Everybody goes to Vegas, and just so many basic dumb business.
You've done a lot of crazy stuff. But speaking of that, like you mentioned, the State of the Union is this evening and everything, and you heard that analysts say that he doesn't think that Biden should go after Trump. But I've also heard that, and you might be interested in this, Sasha, that he's going to call for business tax hikes, middle class tax cuts, and lower deficits in his State of the Union. So I just wonder, one, should he go after Trump, and are these kind of proposals in the business community going to hurt or help him in this campaign?
Yeah, I think it's a positive development. But Mark, I think it will be much better for us to discuss it tomorrow morning on a World Edition, because then we will operate with the real data, with the real information.
Yeah, then we'll know what he said and all along those lines.
Yeah, I've heard that stuff. Yeah, that will be a positive development as well. But now, Liz Cheney, yeah, I heard that little video. I think all Americans who have any brains, they have to worry about this. Remember that he won, even the Super Tuesday, he won mostly uneducated, very low performing people. He got 80% of those votes. Wherever the votes were in urban areas with more educated people, he lost to Nikki Haley. I mean, Nikki Haley, for Christ's sake, she's nobody. She's experienced politician. She's trying now to fight for a vice presidency, and maybe she'll get it, maybe not. I think he will elect Tim Scott for vice president because he thinks that he will bring black votes to him. So Nikki Haley is a little bit out of luck in this department. So if she will realize that, she will be very vocal against Trump, because Trump will lose election, and the fact that she was against him will help her to get nomination. Maybe
that
not.
makes a lot of sense.
I
Just really quickly, and along those same lines.
I just want. Can I tell a quick story before we move on? Can I tell a quick story?
Yes, go for it.
My dad owned a ladies' wear store in Boulder, Colorado, on Pearl Street, and the city decided that they wanted to turn Pearl Street from a street that cars went down to a pedestrian mall. Now, my dad is like, he's like, what does this mean? So he commissioned a study where they looked at pedestrian malls across America and found out that pedestrian malls are very successful in attracting business to the street, but not for the businesses that are already there. Right. Those businesses go out of business, and new businesses, franchise places, cookie places, Starbucks come in and grab all the business. And this is a guy who owns a dress store doing this business analysis. He sued the city. He didn't win, but he did business analysis. I don't think Trump has ever done that kind of this supposed billionaire genius, never done any of that. And then lenders lend him money because he's got this reputation for being a business genius. And he's a dumb shit who paid people to take the SAT to get him into college, who paid people to do his coursework in college. At least one of his professors said he was the dumbest student he's ever had. And so it's very
along those same lines, though, there have been a lot of speculation. Fortunately, Michelle Obama has said that she is not and will not run, but definitely there's this notion that folks need to push Biden out and get Gavin or get some other candidates to run. And I don't think that is feasible. I was just wondering your thoughts on that.
It's all to fill you got to fill 24 hours worth of news. You have to make things seem exciting and full of possibilities. No, Biden's the candidate. Unless he drops dead, he's the candidate. Same for Trump. And if you do the math, neither of them's going to drop dead. You run the actuarial statistics on Biden, and the average guy, his age, will live for 8.2 more years. And Biden, he's skinny. He's in good shape. He has the best medical care in the world. Biden will live to like 95.
I mean, he might be like Jimmy Carter, who's still about over 100 now and still kicking it. And
he's 100 in October. He's got
100 in October. I knew he was getting near 100. So if he turned 100 in October, should he make it that far? We do hope that he does, and all along those. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, one of the things that people have been talking about on the political front, and I'm sure that it'll be something that Trump will be trying to campaign on, is this notion that one about the Ukrainian aid, and this notion that NATO and the NATO countries should be kicking in more of their money, and it shouldn't just be American money. That's kind of the argument that the Republicans have been making. But I was just wondering your take on that.
Complete nonsense, because today Europeans spend, especially with the war in Ukraine, they spend way much more money than United States. United States now in a league of international bandits who don't pay their money to help the Ukraine, which is pursued by Russia, which was, except Second World War, it's a enemy of the free world, not only United States, but all free world. This is the most disgusting dictatorship, especially now with Putin in the power, that now they're talking about putting some nuclear devices in space, destroying all the satellites, that the US will become absolutely blind and deaf. And it's so disgusting. And this little puppy of Trump, Mike Johnson, he is not putting the vote on help to Ukraine because he will lose this vote for sure. So Trump is telling him, don't do it and just wait until I'll come to power and we'll fix the problem. He's promising to finish the war in Ukraine in one day. It's not going to happen unless he will completely capitulate to Putin and tell Putin, okay, just go and grab as much as you can pieces of Ukraine. Grab all of it. Why not? Yeah, please yourself.
The EU countries have given 150 billion to Ukraine. The US has given less than half that, 73 billion. Of that 73 billion, a lot of it stays in the US because it goes to arms manufacturers, or we're giving Ukraine obsolete missiles and other weapons that we would not use if we went directly to war.
Even this F-16s, which we are talking about almost 2 years to supply Ukraine with F-16s, which would help them tremendously. No, they wouldn't give it because, okay, Biden is scared of escalation against Russia because they could go nuclear or whatever. Okay, it's possible to listen to it for some time. But you see, the problem is that F-16s, they're obsolete planes. They were designed in 1980s, and they are already in the United States. They're all being in Europe as well. They're being replaced with F-18 and F-35. So F-16s is very old, 40, 50 years old technology, and they're rusting. They will be eventually destroyed, all of them. But no, you're not giving them to Ukraine for whatever reasons. So there's a lot of garbage really going on. And Trump, of course, Trump is furious at Ukraine because his first impeachment was because of his so-called perfect call with Ukrainian President Zelensky, and that led to his first impeachment. Okay. So, and another problem in the United States is that all this theory about three equal branches of government, here is the presidency, here is the Congress, and here is the Supreme Court, it's all now not working anymore. Supreme Court is becoming a branch of Republican Party, and I don't understand why Biden wasted so many years without increasing the size of Supreme Court to 15.
I think you need more people, and he didn't have enough votes in the Senate to get away with that.
Yeah, later on, yeah. But at the beginning, when he just became a president, he had control of the House and Senate, and he could do it, I think. But maybe I'm wrong.
So one of the things I've heard about Trump thing. All right, you mentioned. Hold on, you mentioned NATO. Trump says, well, that these countries don't pay enough to NATO. The deal is you're not really paying money to NATO. It's how much of
you spend on defense.
How much you spend on your own military. Trump was like complete. So the expectation, the hope is that countries will spend 2% of their budget on their military, and their countries actually are and have been spending. Have been kicking it up, and a lot of NATO countries are hitting 2% or close to it. You know, and
many countries spending more than 2%. A lot of countries spending much more than 2%.
Some is doing much more than that and everything. So one of the things I've heard people talking about, I don't know y'all's thoughts around this, is this notion that whoever is elected, whether it is the incumbent President Biden or whether Trump has this break in terms and comes back in office, is that it's going to be gridlock no matter who wins. Because I think that I've heard that one of the legislation chambers will be controlled by the Democrats and the other by the Republicans. So whoever's in control, they will have to face that gridlock. But I'm just wondering, are we going to see some true compromise in government, or are we heading for gridlock in 2025?
Most will probably gridlock, but Mitch McConnell is leaving.
Mhm.
Mitch McConnell was the king of getting what he wanted, and especially when he wanted gridlock. And yeah, odds are that the Democrats can't keep the Senate because I think maybe 35 people are running for, 1/3 of the Senate gets replaced every
Yeah.
2 years. And I think of the 35 people, 24 of those seats are occupied by Democrats. The Democrats have to win like more than 2/3 of these Senate elections, and it'll be tough for them. On the other hand, the House is the crappiest House in history, and they only have like a three. I think they have it's 219 to 213 or something right now. They will probably lose because people know they're crappy, and it just, if you look at historical trends, yeah, the Democrats will retake the House, narrowly lose the Senate.
Yeah, I can see that
But-
happening and everything. Go ahead.
But if Trump goes on trial on what, March 25th on the Stormy Daniels stuff,
Mhm.
if people really abandon Trump if he's found guilty and he's up on 34 individual charges in this case, if he's found, and these are experienced prosecutors with a strong case, he'll likely be found guilty of quite a few charges. And if people really abandon Trump, 20% of Trump voters abandoned him, does that mean that they go to the polls at all? And in that case, maybe Democrats get the House and the Senate.
Could be that case. It could be a sweep that way. By the way, you
on
talked
the
about
other hand, like the Biden could, make a verbal gaffe or something, or trip over something on the stage or some crap like that.
Yeah,
but-
that can happen that way as well. Speaking of that and everything, I'm still trying to figure this out because it happened even with, I believe it was one of the things like not Thousand Island, that was one of the nuclear plants. And when government is trying to compensate people, but sometimes compensation in my mind comes way too late. But I'd love to hear both you and Sasha's thoughts, because apparently the Senate passed a bill to compensate Americans exposed to radiation by the government. So they did that earlier today, but it is from radiation that took place some 3 decades ago. So some of those people are still living and have still been impacted, so they will get the money themselves. But I'm also thinking that some of those people, unfortunately, are no longer here on the planet and have been buried. So I guess it is their kind of like folks that are part of their lineage that will get the money now and everything.
all my dads, I have my father-in-law, my real dad, my stepdad, they all got radiated by the U.S. government. My real dad flew the largest hydrogen bomb ever created by the U.S. He was a navigator bombardier flying that thing around in case, like Dr. Strangelove. So he probably got some radiation. My stepdad guarded nukes. He probably got some radiation. My father-in-law was like an accountant. He did the accounting for the nukes. The U.S. radiated a ton of people. And yeah, now it's too freaking late because most of them, all my dads are dead.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I guess that technically speaking, Rick, you can go for that money if they're going to give it to the folks that are down the lineage trail and everything. But that's what my point was, that if that is going to be impacted from folks that are no longer here, then I guess it has to go to their next in line. And I don't know how they're going to do that.
We talk about reparations. The people who deserve the reparations have been dead for 170 years. I mean, the last slaves, I'm sure, they used to talk about the world's oldest Civil War veteran or, the world's oldest enslaved person probably died in what, 1910? And we're still trying to figure out reparations 100 years after that.
And speaking of that, and speaking of things that are in the political landscape, since this is world politics and everything, but and I know this will be one because we kind of talked about the House and the Senate and whether they are effective or not. And I know that other countries have done this, including, I think there have been some efforts in some of the African countries and even some of the other countries in North America. But apparently a bill that could lead to the popular video sharing app TikTok being unavailable in the United States is quickly gaining traction in the House as lawmakers voiced concern about the potential for that platform to surveil and manipulate Americans. So I guess your favorite president, Zaka, is behind the measure because the measure gained the support of House Speaker Mike Johnson and could soon come up to a full vote in the House, and the bill advanced out of the committee on today in a unanimous bipartisan vote. That's rare. A bipartisan vote is 50-0. But yeah, it looks like the White House has provided technical support in the drafting of the bill. The White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the TikTok legislation still needs some work to get to the place where President Joe Biden would endorse it. But what is our thoughts around this notion of maybe the fine folks in China? Because I think ByteDance is the one that owns TikTok and everything is maybe not going to be available in the United States because we're going to pass a House bill that's going to get rid of it and everything. So, and like I said, your friend Mike Johnson, and yes, I am being sarcastic, is the one that is behind this, just like he's behind some of the Trump campaign and everything. But what's your take? You know, we got Steve joining us, by the way, as well.
Ridiculous. Just like everybody's looking for an issue that'll, win over their base. By the way, I was way off on when the last living enslaved person died in America, 1972.
Oh, wow. That would make sense because 1865, they would have been a baby. So they might have lived to like 105 or something like that. But they were probably born as a baby. Hey, Steve, I see that you're at a school setting and everything, but we've been talking about the State of the Union as well as the fact that Liz Cheney has formed a pact. Yes, I hear you. Yes.
Yeah,
can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay, yeah. The Wi-Fi is really bad. I'm just going to go ahead and say my piece, and I'll try to join later. But I just want to say hi to everyone in world politics. I'm at something with my son today. We came to watch his alma mater play tennis, but I was going to open up with the State of the Union, but we'll talk about it next week or tomorrow morning. But the bottom line is that it's a big night tonight for the president. He has really got a lot to talk about in terms of why, what he's going to be doing with Israel, what he's going to be doing with Ukraine, the request for aid, and an appeal to the country that he deserves 4 more years. It's going to be a hard climb, a hard ask. I don't know who's giving the Republican response, but everyone's watching. Get out your popcorn. Joe Biden's fighting for his life, and we'll see. He's going to have to do well tonight. Will he be heckled? I don't know. I'd like to hear what your all's opinions are. What would you tell the president he's got to do tonight to gain some poll numbers? What do you all think?
He has to, well, I mean, I've been listening to people say stuff all day. And I mean, he has to look vigorous.
Yeah, he doesn't have to look vigorous.
I can't hear you. I'm going to go.
Okay.
I'm going to go into my car because I can't hear you. Keep going, guys.
I think Biden's worst habit is that his mouth hangs open a little bit almost all the time. And that looks like an old man thing. He's always a little bit like, and I wish somebody would tell.
Keep going, guys. I can't hear a word.
Go ahead. Rick, go
on. I've heard many comments today that people tonight are going to watch more than listen. They are going to see his expressions, his face, his energy, and they're not going to listen to, regardless of all his tax cuts or he's trying to do this or whatever. He will discuss Ukraine or Israel or doesn't matter. They are going to watch him because that's most of the people understand what they see with their eyes. To listen to this Israel issues or Ukraine or it's too complicated. It's okay, so you help Ukraine or you don't help Israel. Okay, so you don't help Israel. Okay, it doesn't matter. His expression, his face, that's what they're gonna watch.
Well, speaking of expressions and face and everything, and I'd love to hear your thoughts around this, Rick. We have had other presidents, I can think of like FDR and a couple of other ones that have had disabilities, and there is no doubt that Biden has a disability. He has a verbal lisp, and he has some other things that would be considered disabilities. Do you think that he plays that up enough, or should he play it up enough, or is he
all right? You got to say it was a different time. The press was complicit. They conspired with FDR to cover up that FDR basically had no use of his legs. He could walk if you gave him crutches and leg braces. He could Frankenstein his way up to a podium, but he wasn't using his legs. He was swinging them off of his arms. They were paralyzed. But the press didn't really, focus on that. If it were today, there would be articles and discussions every day. Can a guy with this kind of disability, really, is he strong enough to fight World War II? JFK had a room in the basement, a former butler's bedroom in the basement of the White House, where he would go to bang other women, not his wife. And the press knew about a lot of this stuff. And, and we know about it too. Now we know, all these women, but the press back then, it wasn't until Gary Hart, presidential candidate Gary Hart, in the late 1970s, that was the first time the press said, hey, we caught Gary Hart banging Donna Rice on this yacht. And he, do you really want a lady banger running for president? And until then, so you can't compare, the today's press.
Rick, there was this notion, and like I said, journalism is part of my background and everything, and there was a notion of yellow journalism even back then. So there were some people that would do some of that sensational journalism, but it might not be as much as it is.
It wasn't mainstream. It wasn't mainstream. We know what Trump's penis looks like. We know what Bill Clinton's penis looks like. That's crazy, but that's the way things are now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Hey, Sasha, just really quickly, and I had alluded to it earlier. I saw Steve trying to pop in, but he did not get back and everything. But what is your thoughts around this notion of trying to control social media and social media from other countries? Because like I said, I'm being sarcastic once again, your friend Mike Johnson wants to make it a bill that we get rid of TikTok. I just wondered your thoughts around this notion of getting rid of some of these social media apps, particularly from other countries.
No, I don't see anything wrong with that, because there's enough domestic social media companies, like anywhere from Meta to Twitter to, how is it, X, now they call it X, and many others. I think TikTok is, I never used TikTok, to tell the truth, but I've seen some of their videos. It's plain stupid little production, worth nothing to me. And I can live without TikTok, that's for sure.
Yes, a lot of people can. I've had a TikTok account, but I've barely done anything with it. I know that there's some other people on the network that have their accounts and everything. You mentioned X, and I heard that there was going to be a meeting. I don't know whether it took place or not, but apparently Trump is trying to get some money from Elon Musk, maybe to pay these bills, maybe to bolster his campaign. But I just wondered your thoughts on this alliance between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, and whether this alliance will actually transpire, whether it'll actually happen.
They're both crazy people, one and another one, except that they're miles apart. The Musk is, of course, very wealthy person, one of three wealthiest people in the world. And this idiot is destitute. He cannot scrap together even $100 million, never mind $500 million it is due in about a few days. So he's doomed. And all his public personas, that he's super rich, he's making so much money, and he doesn't need any money. He wants to help people. Guess what? How he can help people if he cannot help himself? He has to now come. His whole real estate empire will go 10 cents on a dollar. Whoever comes in first, Letitia James already eyeing the 40 Wall Street building, and she's already looking for a buyer. I mean, it's complete disaster. He lost everything in his life, whatever he touched. He lost the casinos, the father's money, the Trump University, the Trump Airlines, just name it, the two impeachments. He lost the House, he lost the Senate, he lost everything. What is there? Two impeachments. I mean, it's a pathetic loser. And a few months ago, I think, one lawyer said that Trump will not go to jail, but he will die a destitute, because all his money will be taken by lawyers, by judgments, by all kind of proceedings. So nobody will need him anymore, and he will just go and die as a private old person.
So Elon Musk is, he's getting red pilled. Red pilled comes from the movie The Matrix, where you have the choice of taking the blue pill or taking the red pill. If you take the red pill, then you see things the way they really are. And that's what right-wingers say. When you become increasingly right-wing and believe the right-wing point of view, you're getting red-pilled. You're seeing the right-wingers' version of reality. And Musk has a lot of trust in his own judgment. He made a lot of business moves that made him a lot of money. So he thinks that every idea he has is a good idea. And, he's not correct in that. He thinks a lot of ridiculous stuff, but he listens increasingly to right-wingers. Twitter, now X, is full of like right-wing stuff, often amplified, retweeted by Musk. And we're going to get hit in the next 8 months with an unprecedented amount of propaganda from Russia, from right-wing. There's a lot of money also, like the right-wing, billionaires, right-wing billionaires will make being a right-wing pundit very lucrative. And everybody's going to be trying to get Trump back in over the next 8 months. And I expect X to get even worse month by month, week by week, as we get closer to the election.
Maybe you're right about X, but regarding other media, look, the average people, they don't care much about X. And
that's
even
right. Yeah, X has never been for.
So with average voters, it's television ads. It's something that's easy to digest and easy to follow. It's not Twitter for sure.
But when you talk TV ads, Biden has like 3 times as much money right now to spend on that stuff.
Soon will be even more. Yeah. So it will be more. So he will definitely out advertise Trump easily. And the big money, from what I read, the big money left Trump. They're not giving him anything. It's just small voters, $5-10 donations here and there. That's what he's picking up mostly. Not the big donor, large donors don't care. Even Nikki Haley, she raising money like crazy, except that it was obvious that she cannot win, so now she suspended her campaign. Interestingly enough, listen, she's not terminated her campaign. He just stopped it for the time being. I don't know how to explain exactly what she meant, but anyway, I'm not too impressed with her in any case, and I think she has to now figure out what's ahead. Is Trump indeed going to win the election? And then she has to sort of be around, and maybe even he will invite her to be a vice president. Of course, she would love to become vice president, because it's a very logical step. If she was ambassador in the United Nations, then became vice president, then of course next 4 years, and she will be quite a favorite to become a nominee from Republican Party. But I don't know, something tells me that he will nominate Tim Scott, not Nikki Haley. And there's
the smart thing to do would be to nominate Nikki Haley, but he's
why not Tim Scott, Rick?
What?
Why not Tim Scott?
Well, because I don't think you nominate a VP who will bring in voters who wouldn't otherwise vote for you.
Well, same story with Tim Scott. If he will bring black people in all states, what's wrong with that?
But black people are 12 to 13% of the U.S. population.
Yeah.
So even if he gets 10% more of the black population voting for him, that's only 1.2% more votes. Nikki Haley's a woman. Women are 51% of the U.S. population.
But the women will vote against Trump. Even Nikki Haley will not change that, because they will vote for president, not vice president. Really. They care about the president. And the president, women, especially suburban, educated, majority normal women in the United States, they all hate Trump and they will not vote for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who would be the smart choice, really. I mean, I don't know. RFK Jr. Then you get all the lunatics that, I don't know.
Ah, no, listen, I think that Biden, if he will do exceptionally well today, which is possible, I'm not going to stand by this, but it's very, very possible. At least a year ago, he did brilliant delivery, and I still think it's for the last several years, it was by far the best president's speech. And who knows, maybe he will even exceed it today.
Yeah, he gives a good teleprompter speech.
Yes.
He's energetic. He's forceful. Sometimes he's like yelling at the camera. Sometimes he's whispering. He's skilled. When you're watching him, you're nervous, hoping he doesn't make a mistake that Fox can use in isolation. And really, it's impossible not to. When we talk on this show, if you took our dumbest moments, because we're talking here for an hour every time, right now I'm going, no, 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 no. And yeah, you take that and look, this guy's confused. That's what Fox does.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, along the same lines, we've only got a few more minutes to go and everything. There are 3 issues, and just really quickly, if y'all can give a short answer as to if you were able to give President Biden advice on the border, gun control, and Dobbs and the abortion issue, what advice would you give him as he's getting ready to give this speech in a few hours? So if Sasha and Rick, if you were able to get hold of President Biden and give him his advice on those particular issues, what would your words of wisdom be?
I'm not sure if he can do anything about gun control, because I think states control each state. The legislature controls gun use. So I really don't know if Biden should even talk about it. Maybe in a broad terms, just to say that there has to be some better control of gun.
It's not, gun control isn't high on people's lists of, it's the economy, it's inflation, it's the border. And I would tell them to have short, easily understood messages, because that's what the Republicans do. So on the border, say the Republicans own the border. They are stopping progress. It's their mess. Work with me and we'll fix the border. That's simple and direct.
Exactly. And economy, I think he has to brag about the economy, which is doing better than under any president in U.S. history. The stock market is booming, and the economy is doing really well. And interest rates will fall this year for sure. If not June, July, then August, September, for sure they will start going down. Inflation is already much lower than ever, and the prices are not going much higher really. So I think in economy, I think it's his very strong point, if not the strongest.
And he could say, I feel your pain about, higher prices.
Yeah.
So we're getting inflation under control. We're doing everything we can. And here's everything we've done. Here's everything we're going to do. And under Trump, you had more people jobless in 2020 than at any other time before or since in American history. Trump, was the first president in 80 years since Herbert Hoover to leave office with having created negative jobs, fewer people working.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. So he's okay with economy. In fact, and I think it's his strongest point by far. And the border, I have mixed feeling about the border, because I don't think that average person living in Kentucky or somewhere in Dakota, he cares about the border. What's in it for him? Is he suffering somehow, or he benefits from more immigrants coming in? I think overall, the United States only benefits from more immigrants coming, whether legal or not, because all these people that are coming, they need place to live, so they will rent something, maybe later buy.
But you have to respond to what Fox News says the issues are. So you have to address the border. You have to address crime. Fox News runs all these stories about, crime running rampant, especially crime caused by immigrants.
There are more Americans are committing crimes.
Right, but he has to say that. He has to say that crime is at a 50-year low. the crime is at half the levels it was in the late 1990s.
Exactly. No, I think he will do fine today. I'm going to watch it. I think at 8 o'clock they will start commentaries. And
Yeah, 2 hours from now, the whole thing will start.
Exactly. 2 hours from now, commentaries, and 3 hours from now will be actual speech. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great conversation. We'll be back with World Politics on Tuesday. We'll be back with World Edition on tomorrow, but another powerful conversation. I know tomorrow on World Edition, we'll be analyzing what Mr. Biden, President Biden, said, and all along those lines. So I look forward to seeing both you, Sasha, and you, Rick, on tomorrow morning, and we'll hear what folks got to say about that.
Bye, everybody.
Right now, we're going to get on out of here, but another great show. Glad to have both of you on. You did a great job of insight and all along those lines, and we'll see y'all tomorrow on World Edition.
See you then. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
No problem.